Hi, my name is Ranita De Silva from Group 5. This week, the members of my group, Amanda, Janelle, and Julie, and myself, will be presenting an article by Hanley, Piazza, Fisher, and Maglieri called On the Effectiveness of and Preference for Punishment and Extinction Components of Function-Based Interventions. This article was published in the Journal of Applied Behavior Analysis in 2005. Due to social acceptability and empirical evidence from functional analyses for antecedent and reinforcement-based treatments, few treatments include programmed punishments as intervention for reducing problem behavior. This study aimed to create a client-centered intervention that would reduce problem behavior and promote appropriate behavior by combining functional communication training and punishment. The researchers of this study chose to include the participants, a 5-year-old boy and an 8-year-old girl with severe behavior disorders, in expressing their preference for the type of intervention they would receive by using a preference assessment method called concurrent chains procedure. This will be described in more detail later in the data collection slide. This study also included a single subject reversal multi-element design. It had 3 phases: a functional analysis phase, a treatment phase, and a preference assessment evaluation phase. Through a functional analysis, it was found that adult social attention was the function of the problem behavior. The results indicate that the functional communication training plus punishment was most effective in reducing the problem behavior. In addition, the subject's preference was also for this intervention. Therefore, treatment can be selected by evidence-based practice, but also tailored to the individual by having them choose the treatment intervention. The next slides will elaborate on the variables within the study as well as discuss in detail the 3 phases presented earlier. Following that, a detailed outline will describe the inter-observer agreement process of this study.
Two participants were used in this study, both elementary school students, and both participants exhibited problem behaviors to gain access to attention. Jay is a 5-year-old boy who has been diagnosed with autism, seizure disorder, and moderate mental retardation. He attends preschool with specialized autism programming. His problem behavior is in the form of aggression towards others, self-injury, and disruption. He's able to follow simple 1- and 2-step instructions. Betty is an 8-year-old girl who has been diagnosed with attention deficit disorder, oppositional defiant disorder, and moderate mental retardation. She attends a public elementary school with specialized programming. Her problem behaviors include aggression towards others, self-injury, and pica. This study only targeted aggression as self-injury and pica had different functions. Betty is able to follow simple 1- and 2-step instructions. During the functional analysis, problem behavior was measured during different conditions to find the function of the behavior. The 3 conditions included attention, escape, and tangible. The schedule of reinforcement was continuous, or FR1. During the attention condition, attention in the form of a brief verbal reprimand was given every time the child engaged in the problem behavior. This either functioned as positive reinforcement or punishment depending on the child's response. If the behavior increased, it was reinforcing. If the behavior decreased, it was punishing. All other responses were ignored during this condition. During the escape condition, the child was prompted to complete a task. Each time the child engaged in the target behavior, the instruction was terminated and the task materials were removed. So this would have been negative reinforcement if the behavior persisted. The child was given verbal praise each time they complied, so positive reinforcement. During the tangible condition, which only Jay took part in, he was given a preferred toy, which had been used in the past to calm him down during his problem behaviors. He was given the toy for 30 seconds each time he engaged in the problem behavior. So this was positive reinforcement if the behavior persisted. All other responses were ignored during this condition. Phase 2 began with baseline conditions. The child was provided with activities and was instructed to play while the therapist attended to a task. The principles and tactics used were the same ones that were used during the functional analysis during the attention phase, which was found to be the function of the problem behaviors of both participants. During the FCT training condition of Phase 2, Betty and Jay were prompted using different functional communication training techniques. Both subjects were taught to use FCT using backward chaining. Jay was prompted physically to hand the therapist a yellow card which had the word play printed on it. Betty was verbally prompted to say attention please or excuse me. DRA was used, and upon the use of the alternative response, attention was given for 30 seconds. No attention was given for problem behavior, so this was put on extinction. The next part of Phase 2 compared FCT and NCR treatments. During the FCT phase, the principles and tactics used were the same ones used during the FCT training phase, but did not include prompting as the subjects were able to use alternative behavior independently. During the non-contingent reinforcement, problem behavior and alternative responding resulted in no differential consequences. Attention in the form of verbal praise and interactive play was delivered for 20 seconds on a time-based schedule, which was approximately the same times as attention was delivered during the FCT phase. During the FCT plus punishment condition, DRA was used again in the same way as used previously in the FCT condition. Attention was given each time an alternative response was produced. Positive punishment was delivered on a continuous or FR1 schedule. Each time Jay engaged in the target behavior, his hands were held down at his sides for 30 seconds by the therapist. Each time Betty engaged in the target behavior, a hands down and visual screening procedure took place. The therapist wrapped one arm around the child's arms and placed one hand over the child's eyes. These procedures were used as they both have empirical support and were preferred by caregivers. During Phase 3 of the study, which was treatment preference evaluation, positive reinforcement in the form of praise was given on a continuous schedule each time the participant pressed a switch, which was associated with a different treatment during conditioning phase. In Phase 2, in each environment of the condition, a colored piece of paper was present on the wall. These colors then associated with the color of the switch. Different treatments included in the evaluation were FCT, FCT plus punishment, and punishment only. When the child pressed a switch, the same principles and tactics that were used during Phase 2 were used, dependent on the switch which was pressed.
The functional assessment showed that the function of both problem behaviors for both subjects was attention, and the results of the functional communication training, the non-contingent reinforcement, and the functional communication training plus punishment interventions were that there was a reduction in problem behavior in both the FCT and NCR interventions. When they returned to baseline, this resulted in higher rates of problem behavior. With the reintroduction of both interventions, this resulted in an overall decrease in problem behavior, but it was not a significant decrease. The reduction in problem behavior in the functional communication training plus punishment intervention was significant. When they went back to FCT only, the problem behavior increased to baseline levels. The reimplementation of the FCT plus punishment condition showed a near zero rate of problem behavior. The results of Phase 3 of the experiment was the treatment preference evaluation. And for Jay, he allocated the majority of his switch preferences to FCT plus punishment. And Betty showed a preference near the end, and her last 5 trials were the FCT plus punishment for her, which suggests that FCT plus punishment was preferred by both subjects. The social significance for Jay and Betty was that when the FCT plus punishment intervention was implemented throughout the entire day, they had the lowest rates of problem behavior for both of them. When they started, they had a baseline of an upwards of 8 problem behaviors per minute to when they implemented the FCT plus punishment throughout the day, it went to 3.4 an hour, which is quite significant. So this would drastically affect their lives. They would have less self-injurious behavior, which would obviously be great for the child as well as those around them. It would be less worry for parents of their child's well-being, and it would also be great for teachers. Another thing that would be socially significant would be that there was less aggression towards other children in the child's environment, which would be significant in the classroom as the teacher would be able to focus on academics and social interactions without worrying about problem behavior. These results are socially significant for applied behavior analysts because this helps break the stigma surrounded by punishment procedures. It suggests that pairing punishment while reinforcing an alternative behavior is effective when reducing problem behaviors, and this would be something to think about as we create behavior plans for children with harmful problem behaviors. It was also suggested by the author of this article that punishment procedures may actually be preferred by clients as they were the most effective or efficient in receiving reinforcement. So when the behavior was suppressed, the rest of the behaviors that the child exhibited were reinforced. So this potentially yielded the highest rate of reinforcement compared to the other interventions, which is why this may be preferred by the client. This study gave a few adaptations. So reinforcement for the alternate behavior is quick and easy. So the child asks for attention, you give the child attention, and the punishment procedure was response blocking. And as outlined by Cooper, Heron, and Heward, that this is the least amount of physical contact and restraint possible in a punishment procedure. Therefore, the pairing of this functional alternative behavior and a punishment intervention could be used in multiple settings by multiple professionals and people in the child's life, like the parents, teachers, other caregivers. The participants are also varying in ages. One is 5 and one is 9, and they also have varying needs. Jay has autism as well as a developmental delay, and Betty had ADD, ODD, and a developmental delay. So this suggests that these interventions can be done with children with varying needs as well as varying ages.